It's like, where are my friends? The legendary Andrew Coates.
Oh, I'm sure I appreciate it. Hello, Michelle. Lovely to see you.
Good to see you. That's so weird. I was just like, I'm sure yesterday somebody mentioned your name, and I was thinking about you just the week before. I was looking, well, you and your brother.
And then my daughter as well. She works here.
She works here now as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so does my son.
What?
Yeah, yeah,
What? What are the
yeah.
what? How? I
Yeah.
mean, they were like 12 or something. How are they?
They were younger
How
than
are they
that.
all grown up?
Yeah, yeah. They have been at various ages over the years.
Wow. How clever of them.
Yeah,
What
It's
do they
it's
do? Are
weird
they
though, because
engineers?
kids grow up, but we never get older. Like,
exactly right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's so true. I did think in the mirror this morning, I did think that maybe some of my skincare was working because I was staring around my eyes and I was thinking, I think it does look a little bit less wrinkled there.
yeah. I just rely on the technology to do that for me now. Turn the filter on and it's all good.
Yeah, well, that makes it even better, that's for sure.
Hello, Afia. It's lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks, Andrew and Elaine, for joining the panel, and Michelle, of course.
Yeah.
I reckon we can wait 2 minutes to see if anyone joins today, and then we'll get started.
Yes. So we are recording, and so even if no one joins, we will put it up on the YouTube. I feel like we'll be more scandalous if there's no one actually there with their eyeballs on us.
Just got to remember that the red dot still exists, right?
Yeah, but I always comfort myself with the whole, no one's going to watch this anyway. It's fine. Say whatever you want. In fact, if you're more scandalous, then surely they are more likely to watch it.
That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
I like the premise of this session that we're following the AI boom. Like, is the AI boom finished and now we're doing other things? Is that how does this work?
No, no, not necessarily. It's that I feel that each session we've run, we always have students asking us, um, what's happening with jobs? What should I do now? And we always get so many questions. So that's all. Just touching on that.
Very reasonable.
I always record these these meetings, and I recorded the last one, and I remember recording it because I was doing the GitHub Copilot exam directly afterwards, so I was in a hurry to leave the call, but I stayed on as long as I could, and I can't find the recording, even though I remember making it. I'm checking now that we're like in the call because I feel like it should show me the stuff when I'm in the call, but no, August is what it's showing me, not the September one. Hi, Amy.
Good afternoon. Hi, Michelle. Hi, everyone. I don't know your time, but yeah, all kinds afternoon now. Sorry, I'm late.
I reckon let's get started now.
Yes, do it.
Okay. Hello to everyone watching online. Thank you for watching our session today. And thank you, Amy, for being here today. And no worries. I will start off with an acknowledgement of country. So before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and their continuing connection to our community. So I am speaking to you all today from Melbourne, Naarm, and the traditional owners are the Wurundjeri and the Bunurong people here. And we pay respect to them, their culture, and the elders, both past and present. So to everyone who I haven't met before, I'll be hosting today's session. I'm Afia. I am an a graduate cloud solution architect in security at Microsoft. And our agenda for today, as usual, we'll go through a few reminders, and then we will get straight into our panel. And yeah, if Amy, you have any questions, please ask them anytime. So the first reminder is about the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program. So if you want to become a student ambassador, we have a link on the screen to apply. And if you don't know what it is, it's a program designed for students that are passionate about technology and eager to share their knowledge with others. So it's a great program for you to develop your technical skills, but also your leadership skills, since you get to work on a bunch of different projects. You could set up workshops, make video tutorials, and things like that. We also want to highlight the Microsoft Student Hub, which contains a ton of free resources, and we have a few of them pictured here. So a key call out that we always like to make is the GitHub Student Developer Pack, which a lot of students we know have found really beneficial. It's a really good resource if you're eager to learn about software development and also just practice your skills. All of these sessions are recorded as well, and they'll be uploaded to Michelle's YouTube channel. So we have a link at the bottom of the slide to the channel and also some of the technical sessions that we've run previously. We also have this Microsoft Source newsletter, which has curated content for the developer community. So if you're interested in learning about new technologies and want to find opportunities to connect with other developers, this is a really good source. You'll find information about things like hackathons, technical training sessions, and developer conferences. And I'll move on to the next slide. So we also have QR codes to our Facebook and LinkedIn groups on the slide. So I will just hold for a second. And when you follow our pages, you'll be able to see all of our upcoming events and things like that. And then specifically for our in-person events, we have a QR code to our Meetup page, which is where you'll be able to sign up for all of the events that we host in person, usually at Microsoft offices. And I know we had one in Melbourne very recently as well.
He said modestly.
And I will now move on to the most exciting part of the recording, today's panel. So thank you to all of our panelists who agreed to come today. I might start by asking you all to just introduce yourselves and what your career journey's been like. So happy for whoever wants to start us off.
You should pick, Afia.
Let's go in order of the slide.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
easy, right?
I'll pick for the other questions if that's easier.
Okay. Then I will start. I'm Michelle. I am the Developer Engagement Lead in Asia for Microsoft. My career has been, I guess I was always interested in learning and I never really wanted to narrow it down. So I did philosophy for my undergraduate degree and then I followed that with a master's in computing science. Something interesting and then something more practical. Then when I applied for jobs, I just applied for a bunch of big companies trying to get into their graduate schemes because I thought I would be able to figure out what the world of work looked like once I was inside somewhere. And I got picked up by a big beer company. And that was marvelous because I think you should work for a company that you believe in. And uh, yeah, from there, it was a global company. I got to work all over the world. And then we got outsourced to IBM, which was also excellent. And then from there, I moved to Australia and chose a local Australian company, but I missed big tech. So then I applied to come back to Microsoft, and here I am today. I've been at Microsoft almost 13 years, I think. Elaine?
Awesome. Yeah, Elaine van Bergen. I went straight into computer science. Well, actually, computer science, electrical engineering in university. Decided I hate math, and so just did the computer science piece, and then went to work at a software development firm, working on some stuff which I had absolutely no idea how to do, but they were lucky enough they hired me anyway. And they've then worked in software development, so creating products at some sort of startup companies and some big consultancy firms that did Microsoft-based consultancy, managing some teams there, and also flipping back and forward between what we call an individual contributor and manager roles. And as part of that, I was a bit of a specialist in a particular technology called SharePoint and some other cloud stuff. Got to talk at a bunch of Microsoft events over the years and saw some cool folks like Andrew Coates presenting and thought, well, Microsoft's a pretty fun place, it looks like. So I ended up coming across to work at Microsoft, where I've been in a few different roles, both customer facing, and now my role is internal facing. So I work in the Azure reliability team, and we work with a lot of internal product teams on reliability of the Azure products. So that's a bit about me. Over to Andrew.
Thanks, Elaine. Yeah, Andrew, my degrees are actually both in civil engineering. I started off and graduated as a civil engineer some time ago now, as you might be able to tell from the difference between the picture on the screen and the picture in the video. Ended up graduating at the end of a recession we had to have, and so there were no civil engineering jobs. I mucked around for a while, ended up getting a job. I'd written a bit of code during uni, and I got a role writing some software for an insurance company. So I did that for a while, decided I really wanted to be a civil engineer, went back to uni, did a master's in hydrology and geographic information systems, which ended up pretty much all being computers anyway, and decided I got stuck. Like Elaine, I did a fair bit of work in the software community, the more general software community, before I started at Microsoft as a volunteer, and I ran a user group for the programming language I happened to use, and that caught the attention of some people at Microsoft, and they suggested that I should apply for a role as a developer evangelist, which was kind of a fun thing to do. The evangelism role was a lot of fun. Basically, we got to go and show people cool stuff, and we got paid to do it, so that was great. After a while, that role kind of morphed into more of a software engineering role, and now I'm a principal software engineer in a team at Microsoft that goes and helps our customers solve their really difficult problems with code, and particularly at the moment, of course, with AI. And so we're doing lots of that at the moment with some pretty big customers. The most recent big project I worked on was moving some stuff from for the Commonwealth Bank for their AI customer-facing chatbot. So 10 million customers interact with this chatbot on an annual basis, and many of them multiple times per year. And so some really interesting pieces around how do you solve some of the AI issues that come as part of that when you're no longer in a world that's deterministic and you're interacting with customers from a financial institution on probabilistic terms. So that's quite fun. I've been at Microsoft now for almost 22 years, and so it's been quite a journey. There you go. Enough about me.
Thanks all for sharing. And for my next question, I might start I might ask Andrew to start this one, and it's because, so Andrew, you mentioned that when you started working initially in software, you decided you wanted to go back into civil engineering for a bit, and then you did your master's, but then you said all of the stuff you did kind of ended up being computers anyway. So my question is, if you could go kind of back in time, is there anything you would do differently there? And the reason I ask is because, so I think a lot of students kind of have this concern about going into software development. Is it just going to be all AI? And if so, or even if a part of it is, how should they, and I guess, how do you feel you might have thought about jobs differently, if that's a consideration?
It's a really interesting question. I certainly wasn't thinking about AI too much when I graduated in the early 90s. It was quite some time, although we did a fair bit of work on what we called expert systems at that stage, which was sort of precursors to AI. They weren't really intelligence, but they did a lot of decision tree kind of stuff and even some fuzzy thinking. What would I do differently? That's a great question. I don't think I would. I think the thing that stood me in best stead all the way through is a combination of curiosity and a willingness to try new things. Just wanting to make sure that I keep learning, and that piece is. I don't think it matters what the technology is. If you're good at learning new stuff, and you're happy to try things out and not be afraid and be not afraid of failing when things don't work. As long as you see it as learning and not failing, I think that's the key for me. And I've been very lucky that I've had opportunities to explore things in all sorts of technologies and using all kinds of with all kinds of people and in all kinds of organizations. And I think that if you open yourself up to those opportunities, they'll probably still be there, no matter what the actual technology is.
Yeah. And Elaine, do you want to add on to the question as well? Do you have any particular advice for students when they're thinking about career planning at this stage?
Well, I think, you can see a little bit from what both Michelle and Andrew said with how they got into stuff, that they didn't just choose stuff, because they thought it was going to be the highest paying job or those kind of things, right? So my advice is always look for something you're passionate about, and you might not know what that is. Right? Even I did, I really thought electrical engineering was going to be the coolest thing. And I tried a little bit of it, went, nah, that is just it's not what I thought it was. And so, yeah, I would think, don't worry, whatever you do at university, or, one of my sons is doing a TAFE course, he's loving that. It's not forever. You're going to change your career a bunch as you go. You're going to learn heaps new things. Go in, have a shot, figure out what you like, and hopefully if you can find something that you're passionate about, there's usually a way you can align that to some kind of career over time. So yeah, look for what you're interested in, not just whatever the shiniest thing is that people are telling you should do. It would be my advice.
Yeah. And Michelle, did you want to add something as well?
Yeah, I think, there's a couple of things, you can follow what interests you. If you're always learning, as Coatsy said, then you're going to be interested, you're going to be making yourself useful, and opportunities are going to come to you because you have made yourself more useful, more, you've learned more stuff. But the world also changes around you as well. AI has really shown this in an accelerated version, I think. But Coatsy mentioned that he started in a role that was evangelism, and that role disappeared because they make organizational changes. And then he moved into a different role where he could still be doing things that were interesting to him and that he was useful at. I started in Microsoft in a role that was service delivery management, and tried always to move towards evangelism. And eventually I had myself in a role where I was doing that, but this year I find myself, I haven't moved roles. I've been in this role that I applied for that was that kind of thing. It was definitely developer relations. And I find that I'm doing dashboards all the time and looking at numbers and pipelines, which is not what I started doing in this role. So the role has changed around me whilst I have been in it. And then, then I have like another decision point. Do I wait for the role to evolve again and hope it will change back to something that is interesting to me, or do I apply for other roles? And so what I'm doing right now to try and take an active part in my career is I talk to people. I talk to people in, that I admire in the business about the roles that they are doing, and try and see whether I could picture myself in that role and whether they could picture me in that role. Because obviously, if they laughed to my face and said, you couldn't do that, Michelle, then I would be too embarrassed to try. But the world isn't like that either. Mostly your friends don't laugh at you. They do say, yes, you could do that. Here are some things you could learn, or why don't you talk to these people? And it means you can, see and forge your own career path by learning and engaging with the people around you. And yeah, it changes every day. In tech, it changes every night. We release a million new features, it seems. So it's never boring. It's always interesting. It's always changing. It's always different. So you're not locked into anything. Yeah, as the other two have said, I think Elaine said it a couple of times. You're never locked in. You can change, you can grow, and the world changes and grows around you.
I'll add one more thing if I can, Afia, because I think those are super important points. And Michelle brought up a point around communication, and I think your superpower as a software developer or as a technology person is your ability to communicate. There'll almost always be people who are technically more adept than you, but it's remarkable how few of them can communicate up and down the hierarchy or across to people. And if you can do that, then you're in a fantastic position both to talk to humans, but also, interestingly, to talk to AI. And I think that's become something that's really almost been a surprising outcome of this. The people who are really good at using AI to build things are the ones who can communicate well, and that's fascinating to me.
Yep, that's really interesting. And I also wanted to ask you all about what I think is maybe the most prominent question that a lot of students are asking us, which is, in your experience and observation, how are you finding that advancements in AI are impacting the tech job market? And also, if you have anything you've noticed, particularly at the entry level, that would be good to hear as well. So maybe we can get started with Michelle.
So, you hear like both ends of the scale. You hear people saying, oh, all the entry level jobs will be eliminated and replaced by AI. And you hear the opposite end, I guess, or kind of the opposite end, in that we don't need those top people to teach our entry level anymore because AI can teach them. And definitely in Microsoft, our most recent round of layoffs was a whole bunch of principal engineers, a whole bunch of the best in our company, the best in our field. And I didn't feel entirely bad about that, because I thought those people were the best. When you look at these layoffs, it wasn't that we didn't need those people. It was clearly an accounting decision where people look at who are the most expensive people and say, let's get rid of all the most expensive people, and not thinking about, like, you pay for what you get, and the reason they're the most expensive is because they were the best of us. And so that's bad in a way that we have lost all those really, really good people, but good for them because they will be able to go out there and get jobs easily because the whole market recognizes we got rid of our top player, our best people. So they'll get picked up quickly. But the managing director came around to our branch and he said, it's been a few years since we've really hired a lot of early in careers. We've been narrowing down the numbers since the pandemic, and now we can afford to get a load more in. So he said we're going to get there's going to be a lot more early in career roles advertised in this upcoming year, which I think is positive news for students and for early in careers. But they have to use, like, you have to use AI right in order to get yourselves up to that level because getting into Microsoft, even if there's a load of jobs, is not easy. The competition is huge, and you need to be able to use AI to learn quicker, to learn better, to make yourselves better. Because if you're just using it to produce work instead of you, well, there's tens of thousands of other people out there that can do exactly the same thing. What you need to do is use the AI to teach you to do stuff quicker and better, but keep yourself in that game. Keep the things that make you unique. Keep the things that make you special. The things that you're interested in, bring those to the forefront and elevate them and accelerate them using AI. So, my favorite tool at the moment is GitHub Copilot. And I say to early in careers and students, do not use it in agent mode because it will make you lazy and you will never learn all the key things you need to learn. Use it in ask mode and ask it those million questions that you're too shy to ask your lecturer, or that or you don't want to ask your friends or whatever. Just ask it a million questions. Then ask it to show you 5 different ways to solve a problem. Then ask it to explain when would those ways be appropriate. In which use case would you use them? And just keep asking and keep reading and keep learning. And ask it then, what questions have you not asked it that you should have asked it? Things like that as well, and just keep going and until you really sate your curiosity. And then I think you will know more than the student next to you that has, used it to improve their LinkedIn or their CV, but hasn't really used it to improve themselves. I feel like I've talked a long time now, Afia. you should interrupt me more.
That's okay. I thought that was really insightful, what you said about using AI to learn. And I will just quickly ask Andrew or Elaine, did you have anything you wanted to add to the initial question about the tech job market as well?
Yeah. Across my, external sort of network outside of Microsoft, I'm definitely hearing the 2 different opinions. And it's been interesting actually to hear how some of my peers, sort of who are probably in the later stage of their career are reacting to some of this stuff. There are some organizations which are talking about cutting those entry-level roles. And a lot of folks I know have raised concerns to their management on that, because we've talked for years about how important it is to have diversity of thought and new ideas coming in. And if you start cutting that early in career community, you miss out on all this goodness. And at the same time, when we're looking at AI, we've got people that are essentially AI natives, right, in that early in career community. And for folks that are older in their career, they're often struggling to adapt. Like I sometimes go, oh, who moved my cheese? Like, I don't want to do it this new way. I'm used to doing it this different way. So one of the big opportunities is getting those folks in that are just growing up and using these AI tooling right from the start, and you get great productivity gains, new ideas, and those kind of things. So, that's something that's getting talked about across a lot of kind of industry now, to go, it might be a cost-cutting move or whatever to do one or the other, but we always need those different levels. Have also been interviewing for some candidates that are coming in for some open roles for Microsoft. And I have noticed some people trying to use AI during their interviews. I'm just going to put a caveat on that. Please don't do that. We do want to hear about you using AI to code and those kind of things. But there's been a couple of people where they're quite clearly reading answers from something. And that is definitely something that people pick up and doesn't go down well. So I'm really positive on using the tooling to prepare you for the interview and doing mock interviews and those kind of things, just not live in the interview.
That's great. I think the only other thing I'd add, and both Michelle and Elaine have covered most of the things I'd probably talk about there, but the only other thing I'd add is use the tools, use them a lot, do passion projects with them. There's a bunch of things that you can pick up, and I think the other thing that's worth doing is watch what other people are talking about with the way the tools are being used. So there are things that people are discovering about the dangers of vibe coding, and be involved with some of those sorts of forums. Contribute to them potentially if you can, or just lurk on them and learn stuff from them if you can't contribute, because being able to have that discussion with whoever you're interviewing with about, even if you don't have an opinion about which way to do things, the fact that you've been thinking about it and learning about it will stand you in really good stead.
Yep. And then I feel like all three of you kind of touched on this, and I think let's have a discussion about this in a bit more detail. With, generative AI applications and pair coding assistants, how do you think that the way students learn to code kind of needs to change now in terms of integrating that into the process? Maybe we can start with Andrew for this one.
Okay, sure. I think I touched on it already. We've talked. I think having a project to work on is by far the best way of doing these things. And if it's something that you're passionate about, if I don't know, you might be helping someone with their enrollments for a dance studio, or you might be tracking the weather outside around the place, whatever it happens to be. Starting to use the tools for that, I think, is a really key part of that. I'm going to keep it that short and pass it on, Elaine.
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased. I've been involved with the RMIT, particularly around some discussions around some of this, and I think they've done an amazing job over here in Melbourne, and I'm sure there's other universities that are doing the same, where they are including AI as part of that curriculum, not just for IT folks, though, for folks across a whole bunch of different industries. They're going to use this tooling, and they're thinking not only about here's what some of the technology does, but also when the responsible AI piece, when you should use it, when it doesn't work well, and some of those concerns. And personally, I believe you still need a lot of the basics, though, right? Like if you don't know what you're doing and you go to AI, it will really confidently give you some very, very wrong stuff. And you just may not know that at all. So in terms of curriculum, I think there's still a lot of elements of the basics that are required to get through, but then also including those accelerated AI tooling to be able to get up to speed even faster. And then looking at, when do I still need to have this checked by a human? When am I building certain things where it's just not going to be appropriate? And yeah, it's great to see that, like I said, RMIT is definitely a place that's already including this, and I'm sure there's plenty of others that are as well, which is fantastic.
I mean, I've already waxed lyrical on what I think about. I think early in careers should use Copilot in Ask mode, and when you're a senior, that's okay to use agent mode because it's going to accelerate what you do. I do have an example of this in that I taught a workshopy thing on via the reactor, so you can actually find that from the YouTube channel, and it was building something using agent mode. And in the week before I did that broadcast, I built that same project 5 or 6 times. On some days, using agent mode, I would go through and I would build the whole thing in less than an hour. And Other days, I'd spend the whole day going down rabbit holes with it, trying to guide it in the right direction, and it just going down rabbit holes and it just looping and iterating in the wrong direction. Now, yeah, it was the same project that I was doing again and again and again, but I had different outcomes. And you can, if you are a senior dev, you can absolutely guide it and use it to be, to be faster, to be better. But you need to have that architecture in your mind. You need to understand what you are building with it, how you want to build it, the methodology, the frameworks, all of the things. And you need to understand what's going on. You need to follow it. You can't just hit enter. If you do just hit enter, then that is the massive difference between, building something successful and letting it sprawl out of control into something that is probably not not very good. And AI can help you build something that is excellent if you are keeping yourself in that loop, taking your knowledge and using it to build something spectacular. But if you just let it if you just let it go with it, you don't really give it any guidance or anything, then well, I often think they're quite like overthinking humans. They get really panicked that what they're I'm anthropomorphizing it, which I always do, but it will add in a whole bunch of features and a whole bunch of extra things because it isn't sure what you want from it, and so it's just trying to cover all its bases, and it makes it bigger and bigger and uglier in many cases and slower. But if you have your expertise to guide it properly, then you can build something great. So I say don't use those autonomous modes until you understand what it's doing and why it's doing it, and you can guide it properly and you can troubleshoot it properly in collaboration, using it as your co-pilot, not as your replacement. For senior engineers, I have had, tremendous feedback. I had one guy tell me at a conference the other day that he was using it to build something, and at a certain point, it proposed a function that was very different than what he had in mind and what he had in his architecture. And he said, no, let's not do that. Let's do this. And it said, no. No, what you are proposing is a legacy way of implementing this, which is insecure. It is dangerous. You are going to introduce security flaws in your code if you insist on doing it this way. This is the new way of doing it. This is the way you should do it. And he said he was blown away by that because he thought he was in control and he thought he knew everything because he's had more than 30 years in the field. But as Andrew and Elaine pointed out earlier, that diversity of thought is important, and perhaps an earlier in career would have picked it out just like the AI did. That's not the way we do things anymore. There are newer ways to write your code that are more secure. So yes, you can use AI to do many things, but I think the most important thing is teaching you stuff that you don't have time to learn otherwise.
Yep. Maybe I quickly want to ask the attendees if you want to ask any questions, either come off mute or in the chat.
I think they're too scared we're going to give big long answers.
I think
I don't know where they get that idea.
Yeah,
I feel
I
very
think you
seen.
ask a lot of very deep questions. That's
All right.
Someone's typing.
I have another.
Somebody's typing.
Oh, okay.
The pressure.
The pressure, we're like all watching the dot.
The dancing dots.
And then Ray's just like, no, I'm fine. I'm good.
Sorry, I was just typing and just saying like nothing from me. It was a great event and I joined in late, but I still get like some some insight from that. So yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
In that case, I still have another question that I want to ask, which
Go
is
for it.
that so in today's day and age, we kind of get the feeling that it's easier than ever to build an application, whether it's an AI application or not. But we also have sort of all these different news stories, like MIT came out with a report a few weeks ago saying that only about 5% of integrated AI pilots are actually seeing a meaningful amount of return of investment. And so, in a time like this, I guess, what's going wrong? What's the mismatch? And what makes a quality application? That's my question.
All right, I'll jump in and answer this one first. I don't think it's anything any different than it's ever been in that regard. We've always had a lot of failed IT projects and a lot of things that were built that have not gone well. Probably AI accelerates that a little bit. What
Okay.
makes a good one is thinking about what people are actually need and making sure that you're tailoring that kind of thing. So many people go off and build a thing, and even deploy a thing without actually talking to people and figuring out what is actually useful for them, and doing some testing, you know, and even what Andrew put into chat about iterating and doing those small steps. People build the big thing and they deploy it. It's just terrible. That approach of doing what is, I like minimal lovable product, not viable product. What's the smallest thing I can get out there, get some feedback on, see what's going well, add on new pieces, and keep going like that. It's still the same process that works. There are a lot of people at the moment that are saying, I need to do some AI. Just like they used to say, I need to do, you know, insert the other buzzword in there. So if we think about what are the problems in our business that AI might actually help with and build something on that, you're going to get your return on investment most likely, the same way you always did.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I'll jump in with two things. One is I think we're in the AI gold rush time. So there's always going to be people throwing stuff, whatever they can do, wherever they can do it. Hopefully they're going to hit pay dirt. That's always part of this part of the cycle. I think that's not going to go away. That's going to be continuous. I think the other thing is that it's really important, as Elaine said, to understand that you're solving the right problem the right way. And there's some really nice frameworks for doing that are not necessarily AI frameworks and are not necessarily technology frameworks. There's a system called design thinking that the IDEO people talk about a lot, and that talks about iterating in small steps. As I said, it talks about validating and verifying, and it talks about talking to users, talking to the people who are actually going to get using it. And so before you even start building something, you want to start with some mock-ups and prototypes, not even necessarily technology mock-ups and prototypes. We've been doing some work with a manufacturing customer where we're working out how to notify the people on the floor of a fault in the machine, and we're working out whether lighting was going to do that or some sort of sound. And the way we tested the lighting stuff is we just held up a bit of cardboard over the machine, a red bit of cardboard. If this came on, would you be able to see it from where you are? We were trying to help them solve that problem. And it meant we didn't have to build we didn't have to take ESP32s and connect them to LEDs and hook them up to the network. We just literally hold up a bit of cardboard. How's this work? Can you see that? Is it distracting? You know, those sorts of things are really important things to do, and it's a great example of being able to do those small iterations and make sure you're solving the right problem. And having that in your head the whole time, I think, is super important about whether your particular product's going to go well.
Always had a question.
You go, Amy.
Thanks, Andrew. I think Michelle is reading this. Kristen just posed a question. Yeah, I can go after that. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, in terms of soft skills, building for early in careers, yeah, it's a really interesting one, right? We did talk about learning and technical skills, but you can use it even for interview prep, for example, was one that I think was really good. It's amazing when I interview people, I ask them a question, why do you want this specific role at Microsoft? And I tell everyone I ask this, but people very rarely answer it. They just tell me why they want a job at Microsoft and can't actually answer anything about the actual role. And so you can trial some of those things with a co-pilot. You can have great arguments backwards and forth and have some chats and try some things out. And the good thing is co-pilot's always enthusiastic at you, so it's less embarrassing than trying it with a person sometimes. So yeah, I would say definitely get it to summarize some stuff, try out some things, and see how you go. I don't know if there's any other ideas.
I was going to say some of the deep reasoning and deep research stuff is really interesting as well. If you're preparing for an interview or or preparing to meet a customer for the first time, getting some of the tooling to do that research for you and to prepare you a report. It might take 15 or 20 minutes of AI time to do that, and it's going to often come up with some really useful insights that you can use to synthesize and to build that rapport.
I spoke to Copilot all day yesterday about so I have a presentation a bit later where I'm going to do like an analysis between GitHub Copilot, Cursor, and Claude Code. And I was asking it because even though we have that kind of stuff produced for us, it's practically out of date the moment it's already in a presentation. And so I wanted to know where we're up to. And on the Claude Code site, they have a comparison table between all of the things. And so I asked GitHub Copilot whether it agreed based given the things that had been released recently for itself, did it agree that that table was still accurate? And it redid the table for me, showing me what it thought. But then I argued back, given some of the things I'd heard from, people about Claude Code or about Cursor. And so we were having this back and forth discussion all day where it was iterating, it was expanding its table, it was changing stuff, and it was explaining things to me because, of course, when you put things in a table, that's a very simple explanation and it doesn't really go into the fine-grained detail of what that actually means and looks like in reality. And I learned so much just having this discussion with it all day yesterday. I don't feel like my slides are going to be are going to give justice to the amount of stuff that I learned yesterday just talking back and forth with it. But it's such a great way to learn by asking the tools about themselves.
Yep.
Oh, Amy, did you have another question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Michelle. I really love your, continuous learning minds. That really amazing that all the tips that you shared. In the beginning of the panel discussion, I remember Andrew and Eleanor, you also shared something about passion and curiosity. I also saw Michelle's note in the chat about how we all find out what we're really passionate about. This is me with tech. This is something that I never thought I could do. But then later on, I had this opportunity to volunteer for a charity in New Zealand. I got to talk to those great minds. I thought, oh, tech is something that actually I can do as well. See those people like me sharing their learning journey and working experience. But yeah, coming to my question, I was saying in the chat as well, like, it took me years to figure out what really I'm passionate about. And then Michelle talked about the opportunities open. We have this monthly meetup for student accelerator program. Would that be too late? Like, not too late, but yeah. Is there an age cap for people to enter into those entry-level roles with Microsoft?
Yeah, there is rules. So like the internships you can only do while you are a student and you need to be not in your final year. Oh, I'm answering this and really Afia should be answering this. She knows it even better than me because she was those things. Afia was an intern and then she became a grad hire. So you need to be within 1 year, isn't it, Afia, of graduating to apply for the
So when I was an intern, I was actually in my final year, and I don't know that that's the norm, but I became an intern kind of halfway through the first semester of my final year, and then I was working about 3 days a week for 6 months, and that was my internship before converting to a grad hire. But from what I understand, having spoken to recruiters in previous MSA sessions in Australia and New Zealand, they're trying to do more kind of end of penultimate year internships now, as opposed to the year-long ones that they used to do before. Yeah.
the grad hire ones you need to be you can't have been working for 3 years and apply for the grad hire one, right? You need to be newly graduated for that as well.
Yeah, but there are a lot of what we call early in career roles that are not grad roles, specifically titled as a graduate hire. And so a bunch of those, any other roles outside of those very specific internship and graduate roles are open to anyone of any age. It's more about, where are you in that learning journey? And they're typically looking for people, they'll put in the role, it will say, a lot of them won't even say you need a degree in a particular thing. It'll say this kind of level of experience. And the hiring managers are looking for people typically that are willing to learn for a lot of those roles. So, yeah, it just depends a bit. I would say if you're ever in doubt, apply and they'll tell you if you're not, right? If you're not applying. And the benefit of that as well can be if you do put an application in, sometimes recruiters might see you and say, this one doesn't suit, but this other one over here you may be more suited for, because we've had other tech skilling kind of roles as well. So yeah, come chat to people, think about applying for roles, and yeah, as you can see from this panel, a lot of us are always happy to chat to folks if a role comes up and say, hey, this might be a good one or not, or these might be the skills, this person we might know, go have a chat to them.
The link I just posted is not Australia specific, Australia, New Zealand specific, but there is some detail about the Aspire program there in that link as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Oh, Wei has one now. Tell us, Wei, what's the question?
Hi. So I'm aware that it's out of time, so I'll be quick. So back in Elaine, she was talking about, I agree that we don't use AI just for the sake of building something, but actually focus on like solving the right problem is like the key. That's where like the product sense comes in. So my question is that with AI enabling like faster development, so how do teams in like large organization, because like Microsoft, how do you guys balance speed and also making sure that the solution actually solve the right problem? Because I can imagine you guys are like a large organization and there's so much thing, and AI is like really fast development. So yeah, I just want to ask, how do you guys balance speed and solving the right problem in there?
I can talk a bit about that if you like, because that's something that I'm pretty closely involved with. So there's two parts to your question, perhaps, that that come to mind. The first one is that we have different places where we solve problems. One is for our own code, our own applications. So writing new things for I don't know, Azure or GitHub Copilot or Visual Studio Code or whatever it happens to be. And the other part is that we do a lot of work helping customers write code as well, helping our customers and partners write code. And often, and the thing I was talking about with the design thinking piece is something we concentrate pretty hard on when we're working with customers, to make sure that they don't just come to us and, as Elaine said, say, we'd like some AI, please. I'll have 4 of those and half a dozen of the other ones. That's often how it comes across. We actually really help them through this process by going through quite a formal, doesn't have to be a slow process, but quite a formal process of working out what the problem is, working out what the solution to that problem is, and then working out how to implement that solution. And kind of those three phases is really important. So it's super important to work out whether you're working on the right problem, the one that's actually going to move the needle. The thing about AI is you can do pretty much anything really fast. The question is whether what you're doing is actually useful. So you need to work out what the right problem is, and then you need to work out what the right solution is. Not the right implementation of that solution, but what the actual right solution is. And so an example of that might be the first one might be the problem is that it's costing us too much to get someone to come in and do repairs on our machines. So the solution might be we're going to enable our machine operators to do their own repairs by giving them access to the repair capabilities. And the implementation could be anything from we're going to fit them out with AR headsets that allow them to see exactly what to do on the machine, all the way through to, well, we're going to give them some easy way of finding the manual. But so the problem is it costs too much. The solution is we're going to get our techs to be able to fix it. And the implementation is, well, we're going to write them a chatbot, or we're going to build them some sort of augmented reality, or we're going to give them some other way of searching, whatever it happens to be. But that process is super important.
Yeah, and I'll just add one more thing to that. So our product cycles internally, we used to plan them in things that are called semesters. And so the idea was you'd kind of lock your big goals for 6 months, and then you'd go off and build little features to that for those 6 months. We have actually shifted away from that, where it's basically a continuous planning cycle now that most teams work on. So it's just assumed that you're going to shift priorities month by month. And so having that fast iteration cycle where we're looking at, okay, this changed, what do we need to change in that next backlog, even at that large product level, helps with that. We don't want to cause too much churn, and we do still need to have that long-term roadmap of what we're aiming to achieve, but really thinking about that faster iteration cycle. We've also got heaps of internal controls on things as well. Some people think that might be an AI thing, but if you think about why AI writes bad code, it's because it was trained on many, many years of our humans writing bad code, right? So you still need that anyway, but if you are deploying faster, you need to have those processes in place to try to catch some of that stuff, because if it gets into production, it's expensive. So we do a lot of stuff to try to catch the bad code before it even gets into dev and test.
And I'll just put one little extra thing in. There is room in all of this process and governance, compliance, security. There is room in that loop for innovation and creativity as well. Once a year, we have the big Microsoft hackathon, and everyone throughout the business is invited to join a team or start a team if you want to. And so if you've had an idea throughout the year that you think this is an amazing idea, this solves a problem, this will help something, this will change something, this is something I want to build, or something that needs to be done, you can form a team, you can encourage people to join you, you can try and build it in that week-long hackathon. And then the best ideas, the best builds get presented back, and leadership sees them, the world can see them throughout Microsoft. And if it was something amazing, then Microsoft can pick that up as well and say, yeah, let's do this, let's incorporate it, let's make it a real thing. Or you could take that and do your own thing. So, one of my friends, she built her own not-for-profit out of hackathon stuff. And she has a whole team of Microsofties that help her, volunteering their time and creating open source community code to run that project, so that she can help Latino women learn how to code and get into tech careers. So well, I guess it's back to what Coatsy was saying about passion projects. If you are interested in stuff, build it. They will come, they will help you, and something will happen. But yeah, secure code. Make it secure as well.
Yeah, I think that really helps answer my questions. Like you guys start talking about like identify problem and then find like there's quite a lot of solution in solving that one problem. So it's good to like evaluate that. And also you need humans to sometimes catch the bad code as well. Because like AI can do with things, but you still need like the human judgment to actually think whether it works. And also you also talk about you guys also talk about like as Microsoft Hackathon as well. And there's so much ways and humans can still come up with like a good problem and good solutions and identifying the problem. So yeah, I think that really answered my question. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, even when you talk to AI and get it to create code, right, it's not gonna always create tests for you unless you tell it to. So there's a lot of things you have to think about when you use it to create code. So yeah, definitely teamwork makes the dream work, and AI is just part of the team.
Thank you for asking your questions. Thank you so much to our panelists for attending today and answering the questions. We are over time, so thank you for staying and talking to us. I think we will call today's session to a close and speak to everyone again next month. Have a good Friday, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
everyone. See ya.
much.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.